Oh, oh, hold on. I'm okay. You guys are gonna have to forgive me, though. I'm a little woozy. I just got out of the hospital this morning. Last week, after reading the chapter, after uploading the video, I passed out. I lost consciousness. It was just that hype. I went to the doctor and they revived me, and my doctor, he sat me down and he was like, Matt, listen, you're gonna be alright for right now, but your hype levels are way above average. Like, it's scary. Like, you should be, like, even if you're up to, like, Infinity War levels of hype, that's manageable with the proper medication. But he's like, Matt, you are stuck at, like, Half-Life 3 level hype. Okay, you have to stop, alright? And he's like, no more reading One Piece chapters with insane twists at the end. No more discussing any Yonko. And, no more, absolutely, he was very specific on this. No earth-shattering information about how the world government actually is run at all, or I could straight up die. So I'm just gonna get into this chapter now, and we'll hope that nothing major occurs, because it's my job, I gotta do it, so let's play it by ear, and I think I'll be okay. Alright, so chapter 908, the Reverie begins! All the crap that we sat through in the last 3 chapters of the Reverie arc, and here we are, 4th chapter into it. Now the Reverie actually begins. That was just the pre-game? Are you freaking real? Okay, let's just take a look at the cover page. Okay, we have Orlumbus sitting at his desk writing out some notes. Okay, alright, that's manageable. That's not a lot of hype there. Orlumbus, a great adventurer. That Columbus is there off to the side, just watching her captain write out some notes about being a pirate. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, that's good. That's nice. Cool. All right, let's get into the actual chapter and see where this is going. Right, so we start off the chapter at the socializing plaza, where the mood has kind of changed a little bit. You know, it started off so happy and cheery. All the kings and queens and princes and princesses arriving from the various kingdoms, all of their retainers and their bodyguards, everyone was chatting it up, you know, handshakes, greetings, like, oh, it's been so long. You know, such a fun time. Gourmet food was served, jokes were had, and then Charlos showed up with a giant slave and tried to manhandle the princess of Ryugu Kingdom away to his underground sex dungeon. Kind of ruined the mood, kind of killed the vibe a little bit. So everyone is beginning to kind of filter out because the Reverie is beginning proper now. So all the kings and everybody are heading over to like the round table to actually discuss matters there of this 7-day conference. So there's not a lot of people in the socializing plaza anymore. But Shirahoshi, Vivi, Rebecca, they're all still around. And Shirahoshi has actually had her bruises from that giant. You know, when he was trying to drag her away, she was hurt a little bit, not major, but just a little bit. She's had her wounds healed by Manshare, the princess of the Tontara Kingdom, who's hanging out there. Oh, Manshare, right, yeah, she was there the whole time. I don't know why anyone didn't think that she could just use her heal powers to cure Shirahoshi. Wait. Did we already know that Manshare was there? Was that stated? Because, like, the Tontaras, I know, like, Leo and everybody, they were serving as escorts of the, the royalty of Dressrosa, like King Riku and Viola, and Rebecca was the lady-in-waiting, and the Tontatas were there as like an escort crew. Is Manshare, like, is the Tontara Kingdom recognized as an actual kingdom of Reverie? I don't think so. I guess Manshare just went along with all of the other Tontatas, but did we know she was there? I had no idea. But okay, Manshare's there, fine. And we have a cute little scene that maybe Oda just wanted to draw the largest princess in the world next to the smallest, and maybe he just wanted to have that little parallel going on here, that duality. So it's adorable, I'll give it to you. You have giant Shirahoshi and tiny little Manshare that just takes up a spot of like a little mole on her wrist. But she's like, oh my god, thank you so much for curing me. Yeah, it's good. The emotional trauma will be a while to get over, but aside from that, I'm fine. So, yeah, everyone's chilling out there, and of course, Charlos got dragged off, and then you have Mulesguard, who was the one that attacked Charlos in the last chapter, and Mulesguard is discussing things with the others, and he's like, listen, I will do anything that is within my power as the Celestial Dragon to make sure you guys are protected. I will personally stay by your side, Shirahoshi, this entire 7-day conference. And Leo kind of chimes in, was just like, so you'll do everything you can to help us. And Mulesguard Mulesguard kind of hesitates, because this is the first time he's done this. You can tell, like, from the last 10 years or so, ever since he met Odahime, and he's kind of changed his mind on the way that he views the world. I mean, he's still a celestial dragon, just probably because that's the way he's lived his entire life. And also, he probably learned his lesson from what happened with Homing, who was also a member of the Don Quixote family. Homing left, it was stated in this chapter, they actually talk about him very briefly, he left over 30 years ago, right? Because Doflamingo's like in his 40s. So it's possible that Mulesguard, maybe if Homing didn't leave all those years ago, he would have tried to go into the lesser realm. He declared himself human, but from what I don't know, Uncle Homing left, and we all know what happened there. I think I'll stay in Marie Joie for now, but I just won't own any slaves. And that's something else we find out in this chapter, that Mulesguard is in fact the only celestial dragon that does not own a single slave. So he's probably, he knows by himself, he probably can't really change much, but just from like a personal perspective, he's choosing to live his life better. And it's you know, baby steps, you know. He probably can't persuade, I mean, I'm sure Mulesguard might have tried to sit the other celestial dragons down, or just anybody that would listen, but they're just probably not hearing it, they're not having it. So he's probably had to just keep his head down as the oddball of the celestial dragons for the last 10 years. So he's a little hesitant for actually doing this, because, you know, he's probably the adrenaline rushing too. It was like, man, I just clubbed another celestial dragon in the face. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna do everything I can to protect you. That's right, you're gonna do anything. I'm like, yeah, anything. Yeah, I'll do everything to protect you. Okay, let's do this, yeah. So his heart's in the right place. We'll see where this goes, although it's also possible he could get killed. Like, he was able to club Charlos in the face with no repercussions, so, I mean, if another celestial dragon walked up to him and just capped him upside the head, I mean, I don't think they would get in really much trouble either. It's kind of in a legal gray area right now, so we'll see where this goes, but, yeah, everything seems to be going good there. Oh, Pell also shows up. Hi, buddy, how you doing? There's still a lot of people that just want to know how the fuck you survived that nuclear bomb, but, how you doing, Pell? It's been a while. Put her there. Okay, so there's that, and, Vivi wants to know where her father is at, what's going on with Cobra, and, Pell says, oh, well, he actually received a letter, a secret letter, from Admiral Fujitora. Ooh, and actually him and King Riku of Dressrosa, you know, are going to have a special meeting, the three of them, Fujitora, Cobra, and Riku. So we don't know what's up with that, but we can assume, because Fujitora, I can tell you right now why he reached out to those two kings specifically. It's because Fujitora is not a fan of the warlord system at all. He wants to, he wants to present at Reverie the alternative. That's what his goal is, to at some point at Reverie, you know, address the delegates, so to speak. Like, everybody! I may be blind, but I can see the future clearly, you know, that kind of shit. But he needs somebody, he needs some people to support him in this goal. He can't just do it by himself. Yeah, he might be a Navy admiral, he might be a high Navy admiral, but he's also relatively new to the whole organization. He was just drafted, so he probably thinks that just by himself, his words probably wouldn't carry a lot of water. But if he gets a few kings of the world to also support his proposal, then it might work. And just so happens to he reaching out to the two kings that were screwed over by the warlord system. King Cobra was screwed over and almost killed by Crocodile, and King Riku was screwed over and almost killed by Doflamingo. So he's like, you guys will definitely support me, right? Right? Well, on paper, you think that they certainly would. You think Cobra and Riku would definitely be like, yes, absolutely, we support you after what those horrible warlords did. Or they are still kings. They're used to tough decisions coming their ways, and they're good kings as well. What makes a good king? Gray hair, apparently, is part of it. But anyway, it's possible that either Cobra or King Riku might say, you know what, Fujitora, I get where you're coming from. I understand completely your problems with the warlord system, but, and there are problems. Just look at what happened with our kingdoms. But at the same time, your alternative might not work, or the warlord system works well enough for the world as we currently are. We shouldn't mess with it. After all, Crocodile and Doflamingo might have just been bad apples, and they were arrested and taken away. Well, obviously, Crocodile's out in the world somewhere, but Doflamingo is in level 6, so they might support Fujitora, they might not. We'll just see how that pans out. So, the next scene, we now cut over to an area outside the castle. This is expanding on the city of Marie Joie a little bit, and from what I can understand from this diagram here, we have, you know how I said, like, there's the main castle, Pangea, which is just massive, that completely completely eclipses everything else in the city. Well, what about the rest of the city? I just assumed that it was just a tourist spot, like Disneyland, you know? It's just like, yeah, come here at one and all, grab your official Marie Joie top of the red line bobbleheads. An entire line of Tenryubito and Gorosei bobbleheads. You know, I would get the one with Gondorf's brother. That would be a really cool bobblehead to own. But no, I just assumed it was something like that for the citizens of the world to visit. But no, apparently there's a specific section of it that are the living quarters of the Celestial Dragons, and it's literally like right across from the castle. The castle was so damn huge, I just assumed the living quarters were in the castle. It kind of similar to, this is an old school Bleach reference. I'm gonna go back to the old days here very briefly. So Bleach fans, you'll know this reference. The Senjodo Kyorin. Okay, that place. I might have been butchering the pronunciation, but you have Central 46, which is the main governing body of the Soul Society, and then it's like a meeting hall, but way underneath that meeting hall, there's also like a bunch of towers which serve as the living quarters of the Central 46, and like no one else, it's like hollow ground, like no one else is allowed to go in there. So I thought it was kind of something similar with Castle Pangea. I thought the place was so damn huge, I figured maybe like, you know, you have the center of the castle, which is the plaza, and then you have like a few meeting rooms, you have the Room of Authority in there. I'm trying to draw a crude map of Pangea Castle, and this is what I got so far. I think it's pretty accurate to within a 1-to-1 scale. Did I do good, Nami? Did I draw a good map? Aw. But anyway, yeah, so I was assuming maybe the living quarters were sectioned off somewhere in Pangea, but clearly no. It seems that the Celestial Dragons do live outside of the castle, and it's just like maybe a section of the city that they have as their personal living quarters. But very much like the Senjodo Kyorin place I just discussed, this place is also off-limits, hollow ground. Even to kings, probably even to high government officials. An admiral probably couldn't even set foot in this place. This is like the direct living quarters of the Celestial Dragons, so there's a passageway from the castle to what's called the Celestial Dragon Gate. And you know it's that because it has a giant, big, freak-off stamp of the Celestial Dragons right on it, and there's like a bridge leading up to it, so only Celestial Dragons are allowed to pass. However, you have the Queen of the Sorbet Kingdom, Queen Dowager Connie, arriving at the gate. Alright, and it's just this brittle old lady that's just like, well, hey there, kids, how you doing today? You want a cookie and you want to let me into the Celestial Dragon living area? That would be swell. So, you know, she's there, and she looks, you know, an adorable old lady, a little bit creepy, but alright, I'll go with it, kind of a grandmotherly vibe. And they all recognize who she is. They're like, oh, you're the Queen of the Sorbet Kingdom. Well, I apologize, ma'am, but beyond this gate lies the place of the Celestial Dragons' hallowed bedrooms and their private bathrooms. Oh my god, can you imagine the immaculacy, like the sheer, like they would probably wipe out an entire island just to claim their gold mines, just to have enough gold to line their bathtubs. Alright, these people must literally take shits on golden toilets. It's just so freaking unfair. But anyway, yeah, they won't let her in because they're like, we can't allow anybody in, not even a king or a queen such as yourself. Now, we cut over a little bit to Roswald, who is Charlos's father. Charlos is being carted back to the Celestial Dragon living area, while Roswald, his father, is leaving. So they have to open the gates to allow both parties to exit and enter. Because Roswald, of course, saw what was going on, and he, I guess, heard a report, and he came back to fetch him. It's not a very long distance. Now, keep in mind, the way that Celestial Dragons travel, because they cannot have their holy feet step upon the ground like a commoner, and I guess horses are out of fashion, then no, they ride on slaves. And so Charlos is being carted away by the giant slave that was trying to grab Shirahoshi, and Roswald is riding on top of a, what is that, a PX? No, that's freaking Kuma! Bartholomew Kuma, huh? Former executive of the Revolutionary Army, also the former king of the Sorbet Kingdom. Huh, okay, that's... what? Oh! Okay, alright. I think that was okay. I think we're alright. I think we're okay with that one. That one wasn't that big of as a shocker. We knew he was a commander of the Revolutionary Army at one point. I mean, that was already pretty much stated. The king of the Sorbet Kingdom, alright, that might have been a little bit more shocking, except if we didn't find out about the Sorbet Kingdom's existence literally 3 panels ago. Because the first time it was mentioned was in this chapter. Here's the queen of the Sorbet Kingdom, and I guess Kuma was the king at some point. Right, so as we all know, Bartholomew Kuma, though, isn't actually Bartholomew Kuma anymore. He was modified by Vegapunk, piece by piece, rebuilt until he became PX0, an unthinking, uncaring machine. He's still got human parts in him, but his brain has been completely wiped. No morality, no memories, no emotion, just whatever the government, programs him in to do, that's what he does. Right, and I'm not going to say it doesn't make sense for the Celestial Dragons to treat Kuma like this. Basically, it's just a glorified transport service. We've seen them the way they treat their slaves before, so it makes sense given the context. It just seems like a waste of potential. It's just kind of like when the government was unveiling Kuma. One of my posters fell. Who was it this time? It was, Zoro fell down. Zoro is mad because we haven't gotten to Wano yet. But, no, anyway, yeah. Watch this. This is the problem I have on a daily basis with this backdrop. Now Chopper's down. Okay, whatever, just deal with it. Chopper, thanks for fixing me up in the hospital. It took away all my cotton candy as payment. You deserve it, you little freaking pink-hatted bastard deer. Alright, but, yeah, imagine the world government presenting the new PX0 to the masses. It's like, welcome everybody to the glorious new invention by Dr. Vegapunk, 500 years ahead of his time, ladies and gentlemen. This once-of-a-lifetime invention will guarantee to take out your enemies for years to come. I present to you the PX0, modified Bartholomew Kuma. Used to be a revolutionary, but then he became a warlord, and now we've transformed him into the ultimate killing machine. He can fire lasers out of his hands, lasers out of his mouth, nuclear generator, 5 million volt, 700 amp fist to charge your enemy straight to hell. And he's also used as personal transport for your need. Just sign up over there in the ticket booth, and you will wait your turn. It's just like, what would be the point? It's just like, he's a death weapon, for God's sake. He's PX0. Send him out to the battlefield. Have him take out some pirates. Do you know how much money got pumped into this guy? It just seems like a waste of resources, honestly. You made a Terminator, and you're using him as an Uber service. So anyway, amidst all the chaos, Queen Connie Dowager actually manages to sneak past the guards and into the sacred living quarters of the Celestial Dragons. But what purpose could she possibly have for this? Well, she's a character we were just introduced to, so I can't even think of a reason why she would do that. Except for the fact that she isn't a character we were just introduced to. No, we've actually formally acquainted with her. She runs behind a building, I guess, so she wouldn't be seen, and then she transforms back into her original form. Or rather, I guess I should say she ages back into the form that we're more acquainted with. And it is not Connie, but it is Bonnie! Jewelry Bonnie, to be precise! Pirate of the worst generation, and a captain of the Bonnie Pirates! Oh, good. This chapter did not have enough boobs in it. I mean, yeah, you had Shirahoshi and everybody earlier, but you can never have enough boobs. It's just more and more. Okay. So, yes, Bonnie's back! Awesome! She's always been one of my favorite, worst generation supernovas, or whatever you want to call them now. Rookies. I don't care. Because every time we see her, she's always washed in mystery and been like, I will never forgive them. I'll never forgive them. And then she's crying at Whitebeard's death and like, I'll never forgive them. And then she was captured by Blackbeard, like, I'll never forgive them. And I'm like, who won't you forgive, woman? Who won't you forgive? Sorry about that. Kind of got a little bit ahead of myself there. Gotta watch the old ticker. But, yeah, Bonnie's here. Okay, now, oh, jeez, where do I even start with this? All right, let's just go back to the beginning. All right, let's start on Jewelry Bonnie's end. All right. So we always know that she has this devil fruit that allows her to change her appearance in terms of her age. We don't know what the devil fruit is called. It's most likely a paramecia, so I don't know, the age fruit, call it whatever you want. It allows her to turn from either a little girl or into a busty bombshell in her mid-20s or to a wrinkled old lady, as we see in this chapter. And this is actually not the first time that she's used this, but it's the first time that we've seen it. A few arcs back, she was in some random town, and she turned into an old person to steal a slice of pizza. And then, the shopkeep is running after her. Is like, where's that old granny go? But then she turned back into a little kid, and so she managed to sneak away undetected. So a very handy fruit there, anyway. And of course, she can also use this ability on other people, like we saw with the Marines on Sabaody. But here's the rub. We don't actually know what Bonnie's true age is. Because every time, when we first saw her, she looked like this, and it's just like, well, why wouldn't you want to look like this? But also, if you have the ability to be any age you want, any time you want, obviously you would probably set the default to be when you're at your most physically fit. You know, your mid-early 20s, something like that. And then use the other forms only when they were necessary. Now, Oda actually did come out and already stated the ages of the worst generation. However, he kind of had to he was kind of a little bit more vague when it came to Bonnie because of her aging ability. It was more like an estimation, and he said that she was 22 before the time skip, making her 24 right now. But I think, in fact, I'm pretty sure what Oda meant when he put an age on Bonnie was an age when we, you know, see her like this. With this form that she takes mostly, this is age 24 Jewelry Bonnie. But we don't exactly know how old she was when she first ate the fruit. Right? She could actually be much younger than she really is. In fact, a lot of people throw that out there because Bonnie tends to act very childish a lot of times. So she could have eaten the fruit when she was 12 and then aged herself up to 24 to keep like her default, and then she could have been living her life like that. Or the exact opposite. She could have been an old lady when she ate the fruit and then used it to regain her youth. The old Fountain of Youth trope. I can't remember the last time I saw that. Might have been Melisandre from Game of Thrones. Not really a Fountain of Youth there, but old lady pretending to be a hot girl, you know how it goes. Anyway, the thing though here in this chapter that's interesting, that kind of gives us a hint, is that the people at that gate recognized her as the queen of the Sorbet Kingdom. Alright. So I'm just going to throw in a hypothetical out your way. Bonnie is actually much older than she originally appears. In fact, she was originally royalty. She was not a pirate at all. She was the royalty of the Sorbet Kingdom, and maybe Kuma married her and she became royalty of the Sorbet Kingdom. And this could have been many, many, many years ago. And I know that Kuma has only been set to be in his 40s as well, but you never know, because when Kuma was being modified by Vegapunk, you can assume that probably also might have messed with his age as well. So yeah, while Kuma might appear in his 40s, Kuma might also be a lot older than he appears. But anyway, let's say they were king and queen in the Sorbet Kingdom for many years, and then Kuma went off to become a revolutionary, got captured by the world government, became one of their pawns, and then Bonnie, you know, his fateful wife and queen, decided to set out to the seas and try to rescue him. Now, there's a few problems with this. One of them is, how do you exactly balance being the queen of a kingdom and a pirate, right? Because it's like, you know, the people there recognize her as the queen of the Sorbet Kingdom, and they invited her to Reverie. Like, they act like she is supposed to be there. Like, she can't come into the Celestial Dragon City, but they're not mad at her being there. They're not being like, what are you doing here? You defected years ago, or you were supposed to be dead. Nothing like that. So, it's possible that Bonnie could have stumbled upon, because it's been 4 years since the last Reverie, right? So isn't it possible that within the last 4 years, ever since the last Reverie, that's when this older Bonnie, the queen of the Sorbet Kingdom, stumbled upon the age fruit, let's call it, ate it, transformed back into a younger woman, and then she felt like, you know what, now that I have my youth back, now that I can actually move and travel the seas, I'm going to become a pirate, and I'm going to figure out a way to avenge my husband. Because when it actually happened, you know, if Kuma became a revolutionary and then went out into the sea and got captured, there was nothing that she could have actually done because she was so old. But now that she has her youth back, now she's like, I'm going to do this. And so maybe she set up like a body double or something at the Sorbet Kingdom to make it look like everything is running normally. And then she changed her name, not very clever, because she went from Connie to Bonnie. Connie might actually be her real name. Who knows? That might not even be a stupid alias. That might be her original name, and Jewelry Bonnie is the stupid alias. You changed, like, one letter. Okay, but anyway, yeah, that could be the situation. She had a pirate crew. That pirate crew of hers could easily be, like, her royal guard from the Sorbet Kingdom, people she trusts. And she could mess with their ages, too, so no one could recognize them. No one's gonna mistake this for this, all right? So it's like, that could be the situation. And so that brings us to this chapter, when she transforms from the older Connie back into the younger, voluptuous Bonnie. She's sitting there watching what they're doing to Kuma, and Roswald is just, he's, you know, like, riding on the back of Kuma, and he's like, check it out, he's the best slave ever, you could hit him with a hammer, you could stab him with a sword, he just keeps on going, you know, and of course, he's a robot, he's unthinking, he still has biological parts in him, so he can still bleed, just like the pacifistas have artificial skin, they're like Terminators. I know I make Terminator references all the time, but, well, for one thing, it's a great movie franchise. Well, Salvation sucked, but you know what I mean. And the 3 was kind of a rehash of 2. But yeah, the regular pacifistas, they're Terminators. They have robotic skeletons and they have like artificial skin. Kuma PX0, he's a little different because he started out as a human, but he's still got blood and he's still got organs. It's just that his mind was white. That's the important part. But yeah, Bonnie is sitting there watching how Roswald is treating him, and even though he probably can't feel pain anymore, she's crying and she's like unforgivable, absolutely. And she can't really say anything because she's in hiding, but she's thinking this is unforgivable. You're her normal shtick, basically, but you know she's going to do stuff. You know what? Oda, if this was in the hands of a lesser writer, I would have been pissed right now. Because haven't you noticed in the last few chapters, Oda is just doing his best to just throw random things at us and get us really hyped, even though he doesn't expand upon them in the next chapter? Like the whole thing with, you know, the Revolutionary Army, and here are the commanders, and then we kind of go away from them for a while. And then here comes the giant straw hat, and then we immediately go away to that. And then last chapter, it was Shanks meeting with the Gorosei, and that's not expanded on in this chapter. But I'm not mad. That's not a complaint. Oda's a good writer. He's going to address that. But I'm just saying, he's like, we were waiting for Reverie because I thought that Reverie was going to give us answers, and instead, it's just giving us way more questions than I could ever hope to ask for to be asked. But yeah, here we are. So don't worry, everything will be handled. This just adds to the mystery. Go on, Oda. I know how you are. But yeah, that's it. I had no the Bonnie and Kuma relationship and a connection to that and the Sorbet Kingdom, and they could be royalty. That was the last freaking thing I was expecting in this chapter. Just like the last thing I was expecting last chapter was for Shanks, a Yonko, to show up amongst the freaking Gorosei. But here it goes. All right, so we're playing this game. Let's move forward. Okay, next chapter, we're gonna get to see Eneru again. Last thing that you would expect to happen, but at this point, why not, right? So, okay. So yeah, Bonnie's there and just watching Kuma, so we're definitely gonna see some stuff with that. But anyway, now we cut to beneath the ground! Exclamation point, because it's very boisterous when you say we're cutting to beneath the ground. We now see the Revolutionary Army. We see Sabo, and we see Lindbergh, and Morley, and Karasu in this little pocket that Morley has created using his Devil Fruit ability. And we still don't know what his fruit ability is, but it is some type of tunneling devil fruit, or at least at the very minimum, it's some type of fruit that allows him to change the nature of the ground into a consistency of clay, or some sort of like semi-solid, where he can like arrange it in any way. So he probably burrows himself underground, and then using his fruit, he just kind of like pushes it and shapes it into a little room so the Revolutionary Army can stay in there. And there's also just like kind of like a little hole popping out for air. But yeah, it's big enough for Morley to fit, although he suggests that he should maybe increase the size because he's kind of cramped in there. So Sabo is obviously indignant about hearing what happened with Kuma, and he says like, oh, that kind and gentle Kuma, and we see a little flashback with Kuma smiling, which is just adorbs. But he's like, I can't believe what they did to that kind and gentle Kuma. But he wants to kind of act right away, and he says that no matter what happens during this summit, no matter what happens during this reverie with the Tenryubito or whatever, we're gonna bring Kuma back. And they figure because they're so close. You know, they're so close to their former comrade. He was probably one of the commanders of the Revolutionary Army. Maybe like Morley or Bello Betty or somebody replaced him since he was captured, but he was definitely a high-ranking member at some point. So yeah, Sabo obviously wants to bring him back, and he's going full throttle. The other commanders kind of have to calm him down, though. Karasu brings up the obvious that even if they do manage to capture and bring back Kuma to their side, it's not really Kuma. The world government has already taken away from him his personality and his memories. Now, this is sort of a problem because I was always under the assumption that Dr. Vegapunk had ties to the revolutionaries. So while Vegapunk, yeah, he might have been the one to modify Kuma into PX0, I always thought that, you know, Vegapunk's a good guy, so he maybe created like a backup of all of Kuma's memories and personality, and he could just download it back into him whenever he wanted, or that Vegapunk set up like a very specific set of operations for Kuma to do, like, you know, to turn on the world government at some point, like he programmed program that into them without the world government knowing. So that's what I assumed, but the way that Karasu's talking about it here, it's like Kuma's already gone, he's been taken away, and there's nothing we can do. And if Kuma was modified by Vegapunk, and if Vegapunk was working for the revolutionaries, they would know this. They would know. It's like, oh, don't worry, Vegapunk, yeah, he's got it covered. There might be a way to restore him. Or maybe just Karasu's not privy to this information, or maybe, hey, maybe Vegapunk is acting along with the Revolutionary Army, but they don't know. Like, maybe Kuma swayed Vegapunk over to their side, and Vegapunk, without telling anybody, is, like, maybe not an official member of the Revolutionary Army, but he is somebody that works with their goals in mind. Because he was obviously okay with programming, like, Protect the Thousand Sunny into the PX-0. If he was 100% loyal to the world government, he wouldn't have done that. So, yeah, I think that if he's not a member of the Revolutionary Army proper, he's at least in line with their cause. So I think that's a good way of looking at it there. Lindbergh also brings up that they're basically just using Kuma as an example, how this is what happens to revolutionaries. We don't just capture them. We don't just make them slaves. No, we freaking wipe their memories, turn them into killing machines, and then make them work for us to kill your freaking revolutionaries. That's what we do. So that's just the world government, you know, rattling their sabers and stuff. They're like, oh, we're awesome, government, oh! So, yeah, capturing Kuma, I mean, they're already in a kind of a tight spot here. They're deep in enemy territory. They have to try to, you know, announce to the world that there's war now, do something with the Tenryubito, and also capture Kuma. I don't know, it's going to be a tough one, even for the revolutionaries, but I think Special Agent 00S is on the case. Seriously, just think of Sabo as a straight-up James Bond secret agent. It'll make you sleep so much better at night. But at the end of this, they all agree on one thing. You know, they have two options here. Success or death. Well, you have conviction, I'll give you that. Tell you what, even if you do succeed in bringing back Kuma, but you can't restore his memories, he's just an unthinking PX-0 robot forever, hey, you got a badass robot on your side to help out the Revolutionary Army, so I think it's a win-win in your case. Right, but now we get to the namesake of this chapter. The Reverie begins. All of the kings from all of the kingdoms walk into a massive room with a giant round table, the government sigil in the center. They sit down and let us begin the discussions of this beautiful world of ours. Okay, so a few things to unpack here. First off, holy crap, that's a lot of people. I'm not even gonna try to point out all of the people that are sitting at this table. I don't even know how many people are sitting here. I didn't count. If you feel like counting, put the number down below. I'll heart some of them. If that's something you care about, alright. Instant heart from Tekking. Okay, but yeah, so you obviously have all the kings that were introduced previously, like King Taco, King Beer is there. But there are a few things to mention here before we get to the big round table. We get close-ups of some kings and queens that we have not seen yet, or just in better scope. Like, for instance, this was something I failed to mention, but we actually got to see a few, you know, abstract looks at the kings way back in chapter 823, when all of them were leaving their kingdoms and heading to Reverie. That's when we saw Vivi for the first time in so long. One of the kings I remember, we got to see King Beer and King Hamburg there as well, but I didn't reference it when we first saw them. But another king that we got to see that I always remember was, remember the dude with the clock as a beard, you know, the clock of, you know, arms as a beard? I thought that guy was really interesting looking, and sure enough, we get to see a full panel of him in this chapter. We don't know his name, but he's clearly a king from a country based on Great Britain, because he has their flag as a hat, and also I'm sure the you know, clock beard is indicative of Big Ben, I'm assuming, which, by the way, I read a while back that Big Ben was closed, like it stopped working and it's not going to be operational again for years. Is that still a thing or what? I would always love to visit London. I love having fans all over the world, and I know I have a lot of fans in the UK. Like, I would love to head to London. I'm sure I could have my fans there help me, you know, look around and show me the sights. I would love to travel the world. I need to get out more, you know. I'm stuck in this house a lot, out in the middle of a, you know, mountain village in Pennsylvania, but I'm gonna get out there someday. But anyway, yeah, we got to see him, so I felt like that was note. Okay, so Cobra walks in, or I'm sorry, I guess he gets wheeled in, because he's in a wheelchair now. Sorry, Cobra. And he mentions, you know, the chairman of Reverie changes every conference, so who is it this time? Remember a few Reveries ago, actually 2 Reveries ago, it was Thalassa Lucas was the chairman, and he was from the Elusia Kingdom, and he was talking all about, you know, Dragon and everything. everything. We have no knowledge of the Reverie that occurred 4 years ago. This is the one when Vivi would have been 14. We have no idea how that Reverie went. But for this Reverie, the king that is in charge is the chairman that'll kind of lead discussion and everything. I really have no idea how this works, because you have, like, easily, like, I want to say 40 people in this room. How exactly they get, you know, they get to any consensus without talking over each other, or how can they hear each other in this giant room? I don't know exactly how it works, but the chairman is in fact King Hamburg from the Bollywood Kingdom, which is of course referencing America. I guess I just didn't realize it the first time of just how purely American he is. He's based off of Uncle Sam, who was used in the, you know, the recruiting posters back in like World War II. You know, like, I want you for the U.S. Army. Hey, just be glad Oda didn't choose to base him off of Trump, alright? Because that's just introducing a bunch of bullshit in my One Piece that I don't want, okay? Just one way or the other. Don't go political, Oda. Glad he based him off of Uncle Sam. But yeah, so he leads the Reverie, and we don't really get to see what they discuss in this chapter. It's just, it's begun, but we don't know what they're gonna say. And some of the other kings even bring up, like, even with a 7-day conference, and I'm assuming, like, every day they meet for, like, a certain number of hours. Like, let's say they have, like, a 3-hour meeting every day, and then after that they can go fuck off and have, you know, dinner or take in the sights or just relax by the pool or something, and then the next day they have to meet again and they discuss the events. Okay, now listen. I'm gonna say this straight out, alright? Next chapter, well, there's a break, okay? So there's no One Piece next week. I want you to prepare yourself for the next chapter, okay? Well, at least when I do the review for the next chapter, make sure to get some snacks handy. You probably should just, you know, make your entire dinner before you click on my next review. Chapter 909, it'll be in 2 weeks. Because here's the thing. I feel like the next chapter, and the reason that Oda is taking a break, is because he wants to prepare a bunch, just an absolute dump of exposition and dialogue. I would not be surprised in the slightest if the next chapter is just this entire room and dialogue upon dialogue upon dialogue. My next review could be 2 hours long, is what I'm saying. This could be the Tekking101 motion picture. Oh, man, because the editor of One Piece came out and stated a few weeks ago, you know, Reverie is going to have a lot of stuff packed into it. So, readers might want to go back and reread some of the chapters. And I feel like Oda, you know, he wants to get to Wano. So I think what Oda's going to do is like, you know, okay, you know what? I was going to break this up between chapters because I didn't want it to be too much information to take in, but we really got to get to Wano as quickly as possible. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have one chapter where I'm just going to pack all this information in. It's just going to basically be like you're sitting there at the Reverie table and just taking notes on the meeting. That's what it's going to be. Last year I worked at I didn't work, I was an intern at a news station, so a lot of times we had to go down to the courthouse and just listen to a city council meeting, and, you know, the freaking chairman getting up and discussing a bunch of stuff. A lot of it was boring, but I was there for like 2 hours and I had to take notes and everything like that. That's what you do when you're a journalist. So yeah, this might very well be that in the next chapter. It might be very much unlike anything we've ever gotten in a One Piece chapter, and that might be why the break is occurring. So I'm just throwing this out there right now as a warning, okay? We might find, you know what, not all of it's going to be interesting. Not all of it's going to be like, they're not going to sit there and talk about, you know, the One Piece and Blackbeard and Luffy for like the whole chapter. It might be a shorter chapter too. It might only be like 14 pages, just completely packed with dialogue. And a lot of cool shots of everybody speaking and everything like that. Some of it might be very boring. Some of it might not, well, not boring might not be a good word to use, but might not be as topical as you might think. But you know what? Oda has done a really good job at building, just world building up and all these different kingdoms in the last few chapters. So I am waiting with bated breath on what he's going to do with this. If this is actuality, what he's going to do. Even if he was going to sit there and be like talking about like, so what are your situations, King Taco, in the north of your state? Well, there's still a civil war going on. Even if it was something like that, something that's like, oh, we don't care about King Taco and his kingdom. That's completely irrelevant to the One Piece plot. We don't care. But I'd be sitting there like, no, this is good. This is good. Okay, so where King Taco is from, there's a civil war in his territory. I wonder if that has something, now I'm turning into Midoriya. It's like, now I wonder if that's something to do with the Revolutionary Army, or if it's a completely different group. what's going on there? You know, I eat that stuff up for breakfast. So, okay. But yeah, we get a cool double-page spread here. The Reverie has begun. So now, of course, there's only one thing really left. We cut over to the last scene of the chapter where we have another area of Marijois where we have the 5 Elder Stars, the Gorosei, wearing all badass cloaks, walking down a hallway. Hey, you gotta look fancy. I'm sure whenever, I think this is the first time we've seen them outside of their room of authority. So, you know, even when they're gonna go for a stroll to the cafeteria, they gotta, like, don the epic robes, like, we are awesome. I am ruler of the world. Ruler of the world. They're high-fiving each other. We rule the world, and we can do anything we want to do. Okay, so they're walking down the freaking hallway, and they're talking about some pretty heavy shit. How heavy? Great cleansing level heavy. Yeah. Okay, whenever the government starts talking about a great cleansing, that has never been a good thing in literally the history of ever. But to expand a little bit more, they're talking about how first Cobra has come to them with a request for an audience. Now, even though Reverie is something that's very special and only happens every 4 years, it's something that I think is more for the kings of the world, okay? And they host it at Marijois to show them that, yes, we are the world government, but you are also in charge of your respective kingdoms, and we will hold this conference every 4 years. But I don't think the Gorosei, maybe the Gorosei do make an appearance at Reverie, maybe that's part of the usual schedule of events, but maybe not. But I would assume that, you know, it's kind of unusual for them to receive a direct request like this, or at least not every king wants to have an audience with the Gorosei. But in this case, Cobra did, and they're talking about how, well, Cobra is a member of the Nefertari family, and the Nefertari family is interesting because they were one of the original 20 families that founded the world government. That's the cool thing. There is nothing different in the bloodline between, say, Vivi or Charlos. They're parts of the same families that started the world government. It's just that Charlos's family chose to stay in Marijois, and Vivi's family chose to stay in their original kingdom, which was the Alabasta Kingdom. Previously Sandy Island, before the Alabasta Kingdom took over. So, yeah, there's really nothing fundamentally different there. However, the Gorosei claim that they are traitors because of what their ancestors did 800 years ago. So, I've saying this for a while. I think Cobra might easily get iced by the end of this arc, or his life might definitely be in danger. And this is kind of looking forward to it, because I think Cobra wants to talk to them about Pluton or the ancient weapons. Like, can we talk about this now? And the government's like, yeah, sure, we can talk about that. And they begin discussing, and that's when, like, a bodyguard shows up behind and, like, stabs Cobra in the back of the neck and kills him, and he's like, oh, he had an accident. Yeah, so Cobra being a little bit worried there, but we don't know if they're going to accept his invitation or not. I would assume they would, and we know nothing about their interchange with Shanks in the last chapter. It's completely skipped over. So we'll expand on that, I'm sure, at a later date, but not now. One of the other members of the Gorosei is discussing that, of course, now we also have the Big Mom and the Kaido incidents going on, and, you know, how the whole thing is just a great big mess. Ever since the Summit War, this shit just hasn't stopped. Now you have Luffy, and he's the 5th Emperor, and all this crap starting, and that's when you have Samurai... Kuma, no! Why do you keep leaving us, Kuma? Why? But then you have Samurai Gandhi saying something that just scares you, and that's when he brings up, you know, the balance of this world, it's just getting really messed up. You know, I think it's time we have another great cleansing. Oh yeah, I remember. Didn't we have a great cleansing? Oh man, when was the last time that was? About, I think it was about 150 odd years ago. Yeah, I think it's time for another one. It's like, kind of like, have you done this before? Like, is this, well, the world government, the crap they have in their freaking hands. Yeah, they probably definitely have done this before. Like, do you think Dragon is the first one to think of a revolutionary army? Pfft, fuck no. It's probably, this place has been in, you know, the world government has been in charge for 800 years. Revolutionaries are probably popping up all the time. There was probably a revolutionary army 600 years ago, 470 years ago. But whenever something gets out of line, when things get a little bit too big to handle with a lot of moving parts, that's when they have one of their great cleansings and reset everything back to zero and say, if you question the world government, we'll do it again, except worse this time. So listen to what we say, gotcha? So, yeah. Anyway, last scene of the chapter, we cut over to the Room of Flowers, where you see a mysterious figure. Oh, it's the tall dude. I guess I should probably come up with a name for him. I think I was calling him the Thin Ice King or something, so let's just go with that. Yeah, the Thin Ice King is now in the Room of Flowers, just kind of playing with a butterfly. Okay, and so someone arrives in this room and states that, Iwa-sama, everyone has arrived. He then begins to turn around and leave the room, but not before we see that he stabbed a sword into the ground. On the ground of the Room of Flowers, we see a ripped-up wanted poster of Luffy and Blackbeard, and a photo, not ripped, of Shirahoshi, which the sword is stabbed right through. Now, I think this works. I think it makes sense. This person obviously holds a particularly high rank in the world government. We don't know how high, but certainly high rank. And of course, he would not be a fan of Luffy, but he was holding 2 wanted posters the last time we saw him when he was in the giant freezer. One of them was Luffy's, so I'm going to assume the other one was Blackbeard. Overall, I don't think it means that much of a big deal. Just maybe like these are the 2 biggest troublemakers in the world right now, Luffy and Blackbeard, or these are the 2 that have the will of D and that have like the possibility of overthrowing the government in their future. That's another thing. But yeah, Blackbeard was most likely that other wanted poster. As for Shirahoshi, well, ancient weapon Poseidon. That's really all I need to say there. And the fact that he, stabbed the sword right through it, well, I kind of already figured that having an ancient weapon in the center of the world at Reverie and Marie-Joie was probably not a good idea and probably goes south really quickly. This person clearly knows what Shirahoshi is, so you might not be out of the woods yet, Shirahoshi. So as he's walking away, though, he also pulls out a photo of Vivi, which, honestly, I actually don't know what this is about. Maybe he's in love with her? Or maybe this is because of the Nefertari family. Maybe they left, so this person might know the ancestors of the Nefertari family, like the original family. And so maybe he's looking at a picture of Vivi and reminiscing, like, yes, you're so much like that woman 800 years ago that chose to leave behind the world government, or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe he's just going to jack it to Vivi tonight. Hey, we've all been there. Anyway, so this mysterious figure, Iwa-sama, got a name now, alright, and begins descending the stairwell to the empty throne. Oh. Iwa-sama, the light that needs to be extinguished from history. Have you decided who it should be yet? We, the 5 elders, are here before you now. Well, I was right about that! Right, so the mysterious Iwa-sama ascends the staircase, sits on the empty throne, confirming, not really confirming, because the Gorosei, of course, were already aware of this, that he is, in fact, the one true ruler of the world government, the one king. In other words, you sit on a throne of lies. Elf reference. But yeah, holy crap. Yeah, so I brought this up in the last chapter, and it was like, the second we saw this damn thing, and the second that guy was going all on a reverence about it, he's like, oh, do you see the empty throne? I'm doing like Doc Brown, like, do you see the empty throne, Marty? When this thing hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit. But no, really, it's like, this is the empty throne, and the reason it's empty is a good thing, because it's a symbol of how the world has no one ruler, and how the kings have pledged their allegiance to never sit on the throne. And I'm looking at that, and I'm just like, that's bullshit. That's propaganda. It's lies. I was waiting. I thought it was going to be longer. I thought it was going to be like at the end of the Reverie arc, someone was going to show up and sit on that damn thing. But in the very next chapter, it happens. I am now vindicated. Yeah, this guy, Iwa-sama, just walks up the damn thing, plops his skinny ass down, and boom! King of the world, bitches! Alright, so a few things here. First off, the name. Okay, I don't know Japanese, so I had to go to a bunch of different sources. I went to the Library of Ohara, so thank you, Artar-sama, but I also had to go to a bunch of other forums, because I don't know Japanese. I had to figure out some way what Iwa-sama meant, alright? And this is what I found out, alright? Basically, it's written in katakana, and the certain characters that are used are the same characters that are used in Adam, and that are used in Eve. Now, the reference there is obviously of the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis in the Holy Bible, but also in the One Piece world, it can be a reference to the trees. You have the treasure tree Adam, which was used to make the Thousand Sunny in the Oro Jackson, this very rare, almost indestructible tree. And then you also have the mother tree, Eve, which was the thing that's the root of all the hustle muscle mangrove trees and the source of all the bubbles, and that's the reason that Fishman Island could get sun. So that's the only direct reference to the Adam and Eve thing that we got in the One Piece world so far. Also the fact that this Iwasama appears in a garden room in this chapter, and his name is indicative of Adam and Eve. I think it's pretty obvious that that's the reference that Oda's going with. Don't exactly know the implications or the symbolism of that reference. I don't know what's going to happen here. Maybe it's a possibility. Hey, in the Garden of Eden, you had the tree of knowledge, and of course Eve eats from the tree, and that dooms all of mankind. You know, because that's against what God said. And then we also have the whole thing with the world government suppressing the knowledge of the world. So I don't know where this is going, but there's clearly references to this. Now, the last panel that we see, the Gorosei, they're talking to him, and they're like, the light of the world that needs to be extinguished of history. Do you have it? Please tell us their name. So the Gorosei are, for all intents and purposes, they're the true heads of the government in the sense that they will, handle probably the day-to-day operations, but they're still completely subservient to this dude, this Iwasama person, right? They'll do whatever he says no matter what. And in fact, they might come to him for guidance. He might have some special power to see into the future or to see the bigger picture of something. There's a reason. These guys, the Gorosei, they're not idiots. They're not idiots. They're not going to follow somebody that has no idea what they're doing. So don't doubt this Iwasama person. Don't think he's just another celestial dragon that's just a dumb rich person. Like, I'm king of the world. No. This person could be extremely dangerous. And or Mihawk. Okay, no. It's not Mihawk. It's not Mihawk. It's just... Oh man, I'm already seeing the fan art of that. I'm already seeing people taking the little screenshots of this one scene and making it look like that Mihawk is the true king of the world. Hey, you know what? I'd be fine with it, but no. Oda has drawn, like he just did that, like that Rinnegan shit with Big Mom in the last arc. When she was all crazy with the hunger pangs, we saw her eyes go with the little Rinnegan pattern shit. So, and it's something we've seen in other characters as well, not just, I think we saw it in Nami a few times as well. So, yeah, it's not something that's just, just for Mihawk alone. But yeah, there are the same eyes that Mihawk has. And Mihawk always has them. Big Mom doesn't always have the eyes. But yeah, I think it's just something in this situation that Oda's showing to, prove that this guy's special. This guy's different. He's not to be taken lightly. He's supposed to be kind of emitting this air of intimidation or power of just, like, how unreachable he is. Like, you gotta understand that the kings of the world have no idea who this guy is. They've probably never met him. They probably don't know about his existence. They don't know he's the true king of the world. The celestial dragons outside of the Gorosei, if the Gorosei are in fact celestial dragons, probably know nothing about this guy. He might be tucked away in a section of the castle where no one's allowed to go into, where the castle is so big, he could spend his entire life in there and no one would ever even know who he was. The only people that probably know about this guy's existence is probably the Gorosei, and that is it. Whew. So, where do we go from here? Okay, well, next chapter is, like I said, we're on break, and it's probably going to be focused on Reverie mainly. Do not get your hopes up on expansion from this. Probably also don't get your hopes up for the expansion. It just keeps building, It just... Oda, what are you doing to us here, man? This arc, you know what? This arc doesn't even need to be animated in the traditional manner. When the anime gets up to Reverie, they just need to make it a motion picture and then air it in all the theaters across the world. That's what they need to do. The episode of Reverie. It's a 3-hour-long motion picture. I would buy tickets to that immediately, and then just have that as in place of the anime. Pump some serious money into this and just make it a big event. Okay, well, yeah. I feel like throughout the chapter I've kind of given a lot of my points on like what's going on with Kuma and Bonnie and the Revolutionaries and with Reverie next chapter. Now we have this thing with Iwa-sama, and you can tell what Oda's doing at the end of these chapter cliffhangers. He's giving us way more questions than answers for a reason, to get us hyped on what's to come. And hey, here we are, 908 chapters into One Piece. This thing's been in serialization since 1997. Granted, I don't know when the first reference of the world government was in the One Piece story. That might have been in Drum Island, actually. Because I know that Wapple mentioned the world government, now his island was allied with it, and Luffy defeating him would make him an enemy of the world government. I think that might have been the first reference of the world government as an organization. In which case, still, that's a good 18, 19 years ago. It's been a while. So, yeah, we finally find out now there is the one true king of the world. Who is this person? What ability do they have? Hockey, devil fruit? Maybe it is an immortal being from the time of the Void Century, days long past. I do not know, but I'm sure there will be many theory videos to follow. Thank you for watching, everyone, and like I said, next one, how long have we been doing this? I've been standing here for 1 hour and 11 minutes talking. The final product's going to be a little shorter because I got to edit a bunch of, I made a bunch of mistakes and everything, got to edit all that out, but probably easily 1 hour of this video. Next one is, I don't know, I'm just going to, you know what, I'm just going to move my couch in here and just sit down and be like, guys, I'm not even going to, let's talk Reverie, let's go. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed, have a good night. Tekking101 signing out. Get yourself some Teddygrams. You guys want to have fun with static electricity? There you go.